All right. Hello, everyone. My name's Mike Allanson. I work at Gatsby. Can I get a quick show of hands of who's used Gatsby? All right. There's a few of you out there. Cool. Today, I'm going to talk about performance by default and this idea of making the right thing the easy thing. When you hear that phrase, performance by default, you probably think about site loading speeds and performance optimization patterns and that sort of thing that Gatsby tries to make easy for you. But I'm actually not going to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about this idea of making the right thing the easy thing and how that's like a kind of philosophy that you can use and apply to your own projects. So what does that mean? It's this idea that in your project, you can kind of encourage your users to take the recommended path of what it is that you're trying to get them to do. And you can do that by thinking about who your users are going to be, what they're trying to do, and then aligning the design of your project, whether that's a React component or a site or a library, whatever it is, with your users. And I like to try and think of that in three parts. First is trying to make it easy to get started with no effort. One way of doing that is by just providing sensible defaults. And then create layers of learning. So make it so you don't have to understand everything to be able to get started with making changes. In UX, they have this idea of progressive disclosure of complexity. So if you ever used an app that's got an advanced setting screen, that's an idea of kind of only revealing information when you need it. And then make it easy for people to kind of opt in and out of these layers that you've given them. I'm going to use a cooking example. So if I want to make my dinner and the cupboards are empty, the fridge is empty, I have to go to the shops, choose some ingredients. So that'd be shopping for my ingredients. And then once I get home, I have to prep it, chop it, slice it, measure it. Then I have to eventually cook it. And finally, I'm ready to serve it, set the table, plate the meal. So you can think of each of those steps as an abstraction, or you can think of an abstraction for each of those steps. So if you don't want to do the shopping, maybe you buy a meal kit where they send you a box with all the ingredients in it and the exact recipe, and you still have to do all the other steps, but you've skipped that shopping section. Or maybe you don't want to do the food prep, you still go to the shop, you buy yourself a frozen dinner, you have to come home and cook it, but you've abstracted the food prep. Or if you don't want to do the cooking, you go to a cafe or get your food delivered. And finally, if you want to get rid of the whole lot, you go to a fancy restaurant and get the chef's tasting menu, and they'll do the whole lot for you. So how would you translate this example to your next project? You could ask yourself these three questions. What are the sensible defaults? How can you then group them into layers? How do you divide those defaults into kind of task-based groups? And then how do you let people opt in or out of those layers that you've created for them? And when you're answering those questions, you can think about who's going to be using your project or your library or your component. Is it going to be someone on your team, or is it going to be you in 6 months' time, or is it going to be someone that's just learning to code? What context do they have, and what are they aiming to do? What are their needs? What are they trying to do? That's it. Thank you. If you haven't checked out Gatsby, gatsbyjs.org. And if you want to know more about this topic, my colleague Jason Lengsdorf has written a lot about it. Check out lengsdorf.com/progressive disclosure of complexity. That's really difficult to say. Thank you.